A new spotlight on one of the darkest moments in world history. Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl is one of the most translated books in history. A harrowing and humanizing account of the 2 years the teenager spent in hiding from the Nazis in Amsterdam, along with her parents, sister, friends Herman and Augusta Van Pels, their son Peter, and Fritz Pfeffer. Earlier this week, on Holocaust Remembrance Day, a stunning new exhibition on Anne's experience and life in the secret annex opened at the Center for Jewish History here in New York. With construction still underway, we got an early look just before it opened to the public. So the exhibition starts with how I was introduced to Anne Frank, with the book.
We have a first edition from the English translation of the diary, 1952.
Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, which immortalized its teenage writer and captivated readers ever since, is of course front and center. But there's so much more to this story.
When you look into Anne's life, there are so many of those moments that are heartbreaking, and still that resilience and embracing life.
Ron Leopold, who runs the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, spearheaded the effort to bring the experience from the Netherlands to New York. It begins in Germany. We're walking through Frankfurt.
We are walking through Frankfurt, exactly.
Where the Frank family and generations of Jews lived, worked, even served in the army, including in World War I.
Celebrating Yom Kippur here in 1915, and then just 10, 15 years after, the very same country turned against them. And the pictures that we show here, you see Anne's mother with Anne and his sister Margaret, the very last picture that we have in Frankfurt am Main, Germany.
In 1934, Otto, Edith, Margot, and Anne fled to Amsterdam. Otto owned a spice business, while the girls attended school.
All Jews over the age of 6 were required to wear a yellow star.
But as the Nazis expanded west,
In June 1941, another 300 Jews were arrested and deported, many from the Franks neighborhood.
the Franks were once again in danger.
July the 6th, 1942, they went into hiding. They rushed towards the business premises of her father, the office, which was in the center of the city.
This is the map, and this is where it
And this is where it's located, right here on Prinsengracht, with the church next door, and the Holocaust is raging around this building.
With the threat of deportation becoming a reality, Otto made use of an annex in the back of his business, creating a hiding place, only accessible through a secret doorway. So you walk through the bookcase.
And then you walk through this bookcase, and you get here to what is then the first room of the hiding place.
The rooms. This one shared by Anne's parents and sister Margot.
These notes of Anne's sister Margaret, who continued to study while in hiding. And from here we enter,
It's Anne's
space,
Yeah.
of course, Anne's room, with all kinds of clippings on the wall. She loved celebrity, she loved royalty.
I'm smiling because I remember, because her father, she said how fortunate she was that her father had brought all of these before she came so
Correct.
that she could have them.
Yes, I'm going to make my room a little nicer, she writes in the diary.
Well, this is overwhelming. It's really overwhelming to see. And I've told you, I haven't been to the house. Knowing the story and knowing the impact that it had on me, to see the diary is unbelievable. On what would be the third floor, the room where all 8 living in the annex spent much of their days. Artifacts include a board game they played at night and an evening dress belonging to Augusta Van Pels, one of the many signs found in these rooms of hope amid the darkness. As Anne wrote in her diary in May 1944, I've asked myself again and again whether it wouldn't have been better if we hadn't gone into hiding. We still love life. We haven't yet forgotten the voice of nature, and we keep hoping for everything.
So we know that the story has no happy ending. They were arrested in the 4th of August 1944.
All 8 from the annex sent to concentration camps. Anne's diary was found and protected by her father's secretary, Miep Gies, who had helped hide the Franks. The diary was eventually returned to Otto, the sole survivor of the group.
It was quite a different Anna I had known as my daughter. she never really showed this kind of inner feeling.
Those feelings have now been shared around the world, on stage and screen, all adapted from Anne's diary.
Books in 79 languages being translated. Really his mission, making Anne's dream come true. And as you can see on a wonderful picture of Otto Frank, it's on the opening day of the Anne Frank House.
For more than 6 decades, the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam has played a critical role in advancing Otto's goal of educating the public.
He knew that he would not be able to change the past, but he felt very strongly and committed to make sure it will never happen again.
But in recent years, there's been an alarming rise in anti-Semitism, including just months ago in Amsterdam, when Israeli soccer fans were attacked after a match. Another reminder just this week with an Israeli-American restaurant defaced in Brooklyn.
We feel our responsibility has never been greater. And this is actually our answer to that huge challenge that we all face. How is the memory of the Holocaust go into this 21st century? And how will we keep it alive for those new generations?
Especially after we are losing more and more survivors. We're down to so few survivors that are left.
Whatever we do in terms of exhibition, nothing beats the power of a testimony of a survivor.
I was born in July of 1939.
Leo Ullman isn't just a Holocaust survivor.
We were not able to get out because the Germans sealed the border quickly.
Leo and his parents, like the Franks, went into hiding in the Netherlands during the war, among the 28,000 Jews to do so. Leo was just 3 years old at the time, and his parents faced an unthinkable dilemma.
It was a very difficult decision because they couldn't take me into hiding with them.
With help from the resistance, his parents left him with a non-Jewish family, who Ullman calls his war mother and father.
Only the resistance knew where I was and knew where my parents were. My parents didn't know where I was, nor whether I was alive.
In talking to the people that were your war parents later on, why did they do this?
I asked my war mother that all the time, even at her deathbed. She died in the early 80s. And I asked, why would you do that? And she said, because it's the right thing to do.
At the end of the war, Ullman reunited with his birth parents and moved to America. It wasn't until their 50th wedding anniversary that his mother shared her story.
She wrote it out by hand and gave it to my brother and me.
What kept them going while they were in hiding?
They purposely didn't talk about me. They made a vow to each other not to talk about me because it would be too difficult. And what kept them going was the same as Anne Frank, hope.
Hope. Hope is everything. One thing I want to point out, we talk so often about the Holocaust. 6 million Jews were killed. 1.5 million of those were children. And as we kept talking about at that exhibit, 1.5 million children killed because they were Jewish.
Right.
And it is a lesson we have to remember. Leo sharing his story. They really want younger generations to be at this exhibit to see it. When you see this in person, you see the pain, the hurt, what happened, how it could happen again, scarily enough.
Yeah.
And so an incredible exhibit by bringing, as you saw my reaction, the Anne Frank House here to New York City.
I reacted similarly because Anne's story is the story of so many people persecuted by neighbors, former friends, countrymen, and yet hate and propaganda has this power. And as you said, we are seeing some of that happen now.
You'll never forget. The power to never forget.